Hello and welcome back to Seaside Garage and the Ascona revival. In this video I hope to change the cam belt, the water pump, the oil and so on, and make the engine run better, because it is running now, but it's not running great. And I think the main reason for that is that in the previous video I filled in some fuel. I thought the fuel tank was empty, but the smell that I'm getting every time I start this up tells me otherwise. There is still some old fuel in this system. So what I want to do is to pump out all the old fuel to begin with, so I can add some fresh fuel. And then a general service with new oil and all that will probably do the rest. This is a mechanical fuel tank in this one, a fuel pump. So I cannot just jump that. That is a lot easier. The way this pump works is by the camshaft, so in order to pump it all out I would have to have the engine spinning. But what I had in mind was to just put an inline pump in to pump it out. I got an old fuel pump right here, so I'm just going to put that in line and put that onto the to the suction side of the pump, which I'm pretty sure is this one. And then fit a piece of line on the other side, like this, and put the other end into a canister, like this. I need to suck the fuel up here for it to work, otherwise it will just spin in air. There we go. Probably just run all by itself once I just kick-start it. And it is looking pretty bad down there. You can see it is looking quite bad down there. I'm gonna go away from this. I just put in some fresh fuel and refitted the fuel wires or lines. I ended up actually siphoning out the rest of the fuel the old-fashioned way with a siphoner up front. I think it was running too quickly, the pump, so it sucked air in and then it just stopped working, and then I had to reset it. I had to prime it to make it work, so in the end I just pumped it out. All the old fuel is now out. There's probably still a bit of residue, but I don't think it will matter too much. And fresh fuel has been added. So now I want to fire it up and let it warm up a little bit so I can change the oil and get as much of the old oil out. Hopefully it will start to run a little better once the fuel in the carb is used up. I might have to actually clean that, but I hope that it will just wash itself clean. This is definitely the old fuel still, because there is some in the float ball. Still doesn't really want to idle, so I'm just going to try a stage 3 mechanic fix. Oh yeah. When you do that, you create a lot of vacuum in all the jets and so on, so it will suck them free. That sounds decent. That's nice. Very nice. Let's do an oil change. So I just reinstalled the drain plug with a new gasket and almost forgot the oil filter. So I'm going to take that now. There we go. I'm just going to add some oil in, just to not start it up dry, like this, and lube up the rubber. There we go. Oh. Generator belt is very loose. I need to change that also, by the way. There we go. New oil filter installed. Then some fresh oil into the engine. Now it's time to change the cam belt. Jakob bought the stuff for that. A new water pump cam belt, no thermostat. So I'm just going to change that. Firstly, I'm going to loosen up the alternator to remove the belt. There we go. Off with that. That was easy. Then I'm going to lift it up and take the wheel off so I can get to the lower pulley. And then I can undo the bolts for the plastic cover. There we go. One thing is chain-driven engines, another thing is the old school cam belt engine. This is just so easy. Simple and easy. There's a crankshaft, the camshaft, and a water pump. And it's tightened up by the water pump, I guess, because there is no tensioner or anything. It's just this. So I'm going to put the engine on the marks. There is a mark right there that needs to line up right there. And there is a mark right there that I think will have to line up right there. Yeah, it's this one that needs to align with this one, not that one. Otherwise it won't match with the top. There we go. That's it. I need to undo the water pump balls to releasing the tension. And I need to take the water pump off also, so it's part of the game. That one, and then this down here. Then I better get a bucket for all the coolant. This is a funny setup. I mean, using the water pump as the tensioning device. I am tempted to remove the generator to get some more access to that. Just to make it easier to see what I'm actually doing. Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, I can turn it and remove the tension and remove the belt. There we go. The belt is off. So with all the coolant drained, I can go ahead and remove the pump completely. And that metal cover, like so. There we go. It's not looking too bad. So as mentioned, the tension on the belt is just done by turning the water pump in place. So it just got an O-ring to seal, and then you can spin it and tighten up the belt. Very simple, and something that seems like something that would leak, but it at least didn't leak to begin with. And here we got the new water pump. I am gonna give the O-ring a little bit of silicone sealant just to make it not pinch or tear while mounting it. I'm not sure it's recommended, so this is just something that I do because I think it's the correct thing to do, but no guarantees. You can go ahead and fit that in there. like so. Just loosely, because we need to tension the belt, of course. And then that metal plate, I'm just gonna clean it up a bit. There we go. Then I can fit the belt. It's very simple, this setup. I really like it. And then you might think, yeah, it's simple, but it's not a very strong engine. But 90 horsepower on a 1.6, and this simple, I think that is very decent. There we go. And then of course there is a correct tool for doing the tension that I of course don't have, because I am not working on Opel every day. But I'm gonna grab this with this to have some leverage. I'm grabbing the water pump like this, and then I can tighten up the belt by pulling on the vice grip. And then I want the deflection on the long side to be around 0.63, I think it is, millimeters. It's right around there. And then I'm going to tighten it up. If it's too tight, it will be, you can hear it when it runs. I'm just going to check the deflection. Yeah, I'd say that's pretty bang on. So that's the belt on. It might be a little too tight, and if so, then I will just have to loosen it up a bit. It will be heard as a humming noise when it's running. But according to the measurement, it's correct. I'm gonna spin the engine over a couple of times and see if the points still mark up. Yep, it lines up perfectly. And down on the pulley, I loosely fitted the pulley wheel for the alternator belt, because there is a more precise mark right there that needs to point to that pointy bit on the engine block, which is also completely on mark. So that's great. Just gonna remove this again so I can get the cover back on. There we go. And then I'm gonna fill in some coolant. I put the heater on max in the cabin, but actually I didn't notice any hot air in there, so the valve might be faulty. But I don't know if there's any bleeder screws. But there is a temperature sensor right there. I'm gonna undo that, because that will work great. Any minute now. There it comes. There we go. Better remember to remove the vice grip. And then the belt. I need another belt, because this is the most tension that I can create on the belt, but it's still quite loose. So it's gotta be the wrong one. So let's just see if it still works. Yeah, it still works. Everything sounds good with the cambelt, but it still doesn't really want to idle. It sounds all right up here, but once it goes down, it's not great. This carb is apparently notoriously difficult to work with. I hope nothing is wrong with it, but it does feel like there is some kind of issue with the choke mechanism. But I'm not going to touch it too much right now. What I want to do is to get the car up to temperature. I'm gonna give it a test drive also to feel the rest of the car. Everything looks fine, but you never really know before you do a test drive what needs to be fixed and so on, and if it brakes straight and all that. So I'm gonna give this car a test drive and then see if it clears up the carb, I hope. I'm not sure, but standing still for a lot of years is poison for old cars, especially with the modern fuels in them. So I guess this carb could be gummed up quite a bit. It might need a complete clean, but it could also maybe clean itself just by getting up to temperature and getting some fuel through it. Let's hope. So let's go for a test drive. As you can see, it just cuts out if I don't keep a foot on the throttle. What I'm hoping is that the carb will wake up and wash itself by driving for a bit. It's probably a bit optimistic. But on the other hand, why not try? I need to test drive it anyway to feel the rest of the car and the brakes and all that. And at least it will wash itself a little bit with new fuel. I can still smell that old fuely smell when it's running, even though I just emptied the fuel tank completely. So there gotta be some residue still in there. So it's not unlikely that it will help. I have a theory that it's just the choke mechanism that is not working as intended, so I might have to take a closer look at that. Just gonna do some brake testing. Yeah, they do work, which is nice when you drive it. Actually seem pretty decent. Jakob told me that this car was actually MOT'd and then parked a couple of months later, and apparently it hasn't really driven since the last MOT, and it feels like everything is all right and within MOT standard. It's just been standing. I wonder if a bit of braking can clean up the discs, because it's not allowed to have any pitting on the brake disc, so hopefully a bit of braking will just clear that out. But the rest of the car seems pretty nice. The tires are not good anymore. They are really cracked and they need to be changed for the MOT. But other than that, I don't think a lot of stuff needs to be changed at first glance, and the feeling that I'm getting. I do have something that sounds a little bit like a bearing, but I actually more inclined to believe that it's the rusty discs or the old tires. But once this engine gets some throttle and some speed, it feels nice. I still don't seem to have any heat in the cabin. I wonder if that valve is defective. I need to keep an eye out on the temperature in case it's an airlock. Everything's fine so far. I'm just gonna see if I can see that valve underneath. It still needs to be properly attached, but I think I just opened the heat up. Oh yeah, we got heat now, and that's good because that means there is flow through the system. Instant heat and dust. So it was just the mechanism had fallen off and the valve was a little bit stuck, just a little bit of force broke it free. Now it works, that's nice. I'm just gonna keep it on a bit to make sure the heat constantly stays in here, but it seems decently. The but it seems to work. So now I'm just gonna drive it for a bit and make sure that everything is up to running temperature and the carb has been flushed with some fresh fuel. Yeah, this feels all right. And the brakes are getting better and better. Completely straight braking. And we have idle. This is decent. This is definitely waking up for sure. And this is just the reason why I don't want to do too much before the car had some time to wake up. Because things will fix themselves and things will show themselves and all that in the first couple of heat cycles. And currently it feels pretty nice actually. I'm looking forward to restarting it once it's completely cold, just to see if it starts up and idles at cold. If not, then I expect something to be wrong with the choke mechanism. But this is a success. It got new oil, it got new coolant, and got a new water pump and cam belt and fresh fuel. And this is going to be all for now for the Opel Ascona. Thank you for watching. Don't forget you can support me. There is a link to my Patreon page down below. Merry Christmas and all that. And see you in the next one.